Hey everyone, this video is going to be on carrier underwriting niches, but also how to field underwrite over the phone with real life scenarios. This training is going to show you how to get more clients into level policies, how to navigate insurance toolkits efficiently and effectively. Okay, this is going to be by Lisa Daniel. So, Lisa, let me tell you about Lisa. So Lisa has a great mix of business, okay? About 75% level business. So she walks the walk here. She sometimes flirts with 80% level business. Her placement rate is near 80%, and she profits over $100,000 a year selling final expense life insurance over the phone. She works Facebook leads just like most people do. And I mean, her sales rate has always been very high, okay? She's been gracious enough to go in depth about the importance of thorough health questioning and the effective use of insurance toolkits to accurately match clients with carriers based on their health profiles and prescription history. So this training is going to cover real life scenarios involving conditions like stroke, congestive heart failure, breast cancer, and she's going to demonstrate how to navigate carrier niches and input prescription data correctly. A lot of agents don't do it correctly. They're not asking the right questions, even when it comes to prescriptions, to do all that and secure the best possible rates and try for immediate coverage for clients when it's available, okay? She also touches on the use of modern payment methods like Cash App and Chime and the red flags associated with that, when you should, when you shouldn't, and specific guaranteed issue red flags. You shouldn't write every single guaranteed issue case, even if they say yes. There are some instances where you shouldn't, okay? So guys, this hour-long training, it will make you a more profitable final expense telesales agent if you're in that niche. And if anything, it's going to make you more confident pre-qualifying your prospects over the phone, okay? It's an hour long. Lisa puts in a lot of effort to communicate this effectively with slides. So if you found value in this, please like the video so it shows her support and she'll keep doing these for us. All right, here it is.
What we went over last week is pretty much what underwriting is. So it is basically the underwriting process where insurance companies, and it doesn't matter if it's health insurance, home owners insurance, the underwriting process is to assess the risk of insuring an applicant for any type of insurance. So what we do is we try to figure out that for life insurance. So our goal is to match the applicant accurately with the right insurance company that will give our clients the best rates with the best coverage. And if you do this successfully every time, then this will mean better commissions for you and a happy client. And that is the key, those two together, because then your client will have peace of mind and they don't want to start searching and figuring out if there's something better out there. So how do we do that? Number one, you want to ask more open questions about their health history. So for example, last week we touched on, if someone tells you they have COPD and you ask them how long have they had it for, and if they tell you a couple of years, you want to ask a follow-up question. And one of the things that I ask is, well, do you remember if you first got diagnosed with COPD before COVID lockdown or after? And a lot of times they'll tell you, oh, it was definitely before. And for reference, COVID started March of 2020. So a lot of times people will think it's been 2 or 3 years, but really it's been longer. And if someone is not taking any type of inhalers yet been diagnosed with COPD before 3 years ago, then they could get immediate coverage with American Amicable. And that is if they are a non-smoker. So you also want to use insurance toolkits. That is your pen to your paper. The quoting software that they have in a CRM is a generic quoter, whereas with Insurance Toolkit, it is an underwriting tool. And that really helps you figure out what is going to be best for your clients based on their health profile. And then, of course, if you're not sure, you can always read the carrier applications. When I first started, I used to always hear my upline agents, they always say, read the applications. So now in this world of technology, people tend to rely more on the outcome of insurance toolkits. Insurance toolkits is very accurate, but it's not 100%. Just like with any technology, it's never 100%. So if you read the applications, then you'll see certain things that will pop up. For example, Narcan. If you know, American Amicable will, if they're not using it for alcohol or drug abuse, and they haven't been, using it for in the last 2 to 3 years, then you could possibly get immediate coverage with American Amicable. Whereas if you put it in insurance toolkits, then that could come back as ROP. So little things like that, you gotta know. And the only way you can know that is by looking at the application. So if you see here, we have our application and the questions up at the top, those are knockout questions typically. Then the ones in the middle are typically graded or return of premium. And then the ones at the bottom would give immediate coverage with American Amicable. And some insurance companies, the ones at the bottom would dictate whether that person will qualify for standard versus preferred. Okay. Each insurance carrier, they have their own niches. So for example, SBLI, they have their niche of kidney disease, systemic lupus, COPD with no oxygen use, Hep C, epilepsy, bipolar schizophrenia. And then with American Amicable, they tend to have the best rates for healthy smokers, recent hospital stays, nitroglycerin, if you put in the notes that it's just for precaution and they've never used it, a lot of times they could qualify for immediate. Narcan, if they're not, taking that because of drug abuse, because now these doctors are now prescribing that as a prevention or precaution. So you put that in the notes. A lot of times you can qualify for immediate coverage. And then RNA, they have their niche. They don't ask about height and weight. COPD, non-insulin diabetic neuropathy, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy. And then they typically have the lowest rates for healthy people under the age of 61 for their jet term or jet whole life insurance. All right, so we will go into our case scenarios. And I feel like if we just go and work this together, then we can make sure we're putting in prescriptions correctly, because it's so important on how you put the prescriptions in. If you don't put the prescriptions in correctly, that could come back as graded, decline, ROP, when really they could possibly qualify for immediate. So that's what I wanted us to touch on today. So I'm going to stop this screen share. But what I will do, let's see if I can copy this and put it in chat so you guys can see. And then once I put it in chat, then you guys can kind of put this in insurance toolkits. And then we can work this together. All right, so I just sent this into chat. We have a 69-year-old man. He got a stroke, or he had a stroke 10 months ago. He's a non-smoker. He's a short guy, 5 feet 2 inches, 158 pounds. He takes Coumadin, which is a blood thinner, Plavix, which is another blood thinner, Lipitor for cholesterol, and amlodipine. So what I'm going to do, let me stop this share and do the other screen. All right, let me slide this out of the way and put it on the other side. That's if it wants to move. There we go. All right, so here is my insurance toolkits. And I'm gonna go make sure I'm on my quota for final expense life insurance. I always make sure I look at each one of these fields because I don't want to leave anything out. So for example, if someone tells me they're a smoker and I don't get into the habit of going through each of these fields, I may leave this on non-smoker and quote it at the wrong rates. And you don't want that to happen. So I always default to 10,000. I always leave the coverage type to level. And then we have a 69-year-old man. And let's say he is in Virginia. I should have put the actual date of birth, but he is 69. So I think that would be 64. Let's see. Nope. 69. 56. Hey, I did it. Okay. And he is 5 feet 2 inches, 158 pounds. And then we have that he's a non-smoker. All of these cases, they're going to be bank draft. Now, if someone tells you up front, because I usually ask within the first 5 minutes of the call, if they get their Social Security benefits on a Direct Express card or bank or savings account. And then if they tell me Direct Express card at that immediate time, I want to make sure I change it because that can make a difference too. As you know, some companies do not take debit cards, credit cards, Direct Express cards. Instead, they only take routing numbers and account numbers. We were in chat earlier talking about using Direct Express cards versus routing and account numbers. A lot of these clients now that we're dealing with, they have a Chime or a Cash App card because they get their money 2 to 3 business days sooner. I'm always nervous about this because it's like, oh my goodness, now they're getting their money earlier versus them getting it on the day, like the 3rd or the 1st, the same day they get their Social Security benefits. They're actually now getting it 2 and 3 days earlier. Now you gotta pray that their payments go through. But what we will do is always select the companies that do Social Security billing because at least that gives you a quicker time for the payments to go through. So this person is using a routing number and account number. They take Coumadin, which is a blood thinner. Now, he had a stroke 10 months ago. And as you can see, this could be for blood clots, prevent heart attacks. It could be for stroke. It could be prevent blood clots. It could be for a mini stroke. So what I'm going to do is ask him, did you start taking this Coumadin before your stroke or after? And if they say, oh, it was before, now what I'm going to do is select that this is to prevent blood clots. And then they are currently taking it. It is not for a chronic pulmonary embolism. And then I go on to the next one. He is also taking Plavix, which is another blood thinner. And then I'm going to ask again, with this prescription, were you taking it around the same time you started the Coumadin, or was it around the time you had your stroke or after? If they tell me it's after, now I'm going to put down here that it was for the stroke. That was 10 months ago. They are currently taking it. And then it's going to ask, is it over 75 milligrams? Most times it is under 75 milligrams, so I'm going to select no. That client told me that they've only had one stroke in their lifetime, which was 10 months ago. So I'm going to say no more than one stroke. Then we have the Lipitor. Lipitor typically is not going to make a difference, but I still put it there just to get used to knowing what prescriptions are for. Then we have amlodipine. If your client tells you, well, I'm not sure what I'm taking it for, the most common reason for amlodipine would be for blood pressure. So I would put blood pressure controlled. Then I say that they're currently taking it and they are compliant with their medication. So now we're going to click on Get Quote. And if you notice here, we have Transamerica as our best option. I'm going to go with this one because number one, this is going to give them immediate coverage and they have the Social Security billing. So they are one of the best in the industry for making sure that money comes out the same day they're supposed to get their Social Security benefits. So I'm going to use that one. This one for Mutual of Omaha came back as graded, and if we click on the question mark, it'll tell us why. And that's because the Coumadin, I can never say that word, is to prevent blood clots. So Mutual of Omaha can be a stickler when it comes to any type of blood thinner. And then after that, it's guaranteed issue. Then we have graded with combined. But I'm going to default with this one because number one, they have the best rates for the immediate coverage and they have Social Security billing. Did anybody come up with anything different than Transamerica? If so, come off mute. No? Okay. All right. So we're going to move on to the next one. Does anyone have any questions about these prescriptions or how I put in the prescriptions with insurance toolkits? All right. Yes, Julie, Transamerica. I used to have a little joke, or even in the industry, that we used to call it trans amendment because they were nitpicking about a lot of things. And I will say with this new product, and because everything is done electronically, it prevents those open requirements from happening. And I actually like using them now. And even the customer service part of it isn't too bad. So yes, I'm very surprised. They've made a big difference. All right, so let me share this screen now for our next case example. All right. So here's the one for the hidden congestive heart failure. Yes, congestive heart failure case. I'm going to copy and paste this into chat, and I want you guys to work this one out. All right. Okay, so that one I put in did that one go through? Looks like it didn't. Let's see. Did you guys get all of the prescriptions in chat?
No, it just posted the title, Lisa.
Yeah, it's weird how it did that. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so here we have case example number 3. We have a 72-year-old female, non-smoker, 5 feet 2 inches, 158 pounds. She takes Lasix, and she says it's for high blood pressure, spirulactone, again for high blood pressure, Lipitor for cholesterol. And we're thinking, oh, she's only on 3 prescriptions, so it must be okay. But let's see what happens when we do this through insurance toolkits. I'm going to change my screen. All right, so I'm going to clear out all of these previous prescriptions. Again, I'm going to keep this on 10,000 to kind of get an idea of what's going to be the rates and who will be the best carrier. Then we have, she's 72. I really should have put the dates of birth in here. So I think that's 53. And then she's 5 feet 2, 158 pounds. She's a non-smoker. And she told me that she has a bank draft. All right, so we're putting in LASIX. Now, as you see, there are different reasons that she's taking it for. She told me it was for blood pressure. So being that she's taking her prescriptions and she pulled them out, she didn't say she's not taking them. I'm going to select high blood pressure controlled, keep the check mark on currently taking, and then we'll ask her dosage. And then let's say she says it's 40 milligrams. So it is less than 60, and I click on next. Then the next one is spirulactone. She said again, it's for high blood pressure. So I'm going to select that, put it for high blood pressure, currently taking, and she's compliant. Now this comes up, congestive heart failure. I'm not going to question, or I won't say question, I'm not going to get in a debate by saying, oh, it's for congestive heart failure. When were you diagnosed? What I'm going to say is, typically when a client of mine is taking spirulactone and LASIX together, it is for congestive heart failure. Has a doctor ever diagnosed you with congestive heart failure? If they tell me no, I don't think so. Nope, I've never heard of that. I'll ask, typically with congestive heart failure, that means that you are holding fluid around your heart and you have a hard time breathing because of that fluid. Does that sound familiar, like maybe the doctor has told you that before? And if they say no, I'm not going to get in a debate. Well, it's coming up in insurance toolkits that you have congestive heart failure, so when were you first diagnosed? I'm just going to say, okay, no problem, and I'm going to leave this up. I'm going to leave the last date of treatment as today because that's the prescriptions. Typically, you got to take them every day. Then the first day of diagnosis, I'll leave it for here. Or if you want, you can change the year, but it's not going to make a difference. And then I just ask the next one. And then they tell me it's Lipitor, which is for cholesterol. So I type that in. And then with cholesterol, that doesn't make a big difference. And then when I click on Get Quote, we still have Transamerica as our best option. Transamerica is really good when it comes to congestive heart failure, but I say that with a caveat. If you have a client who is diabetic on insulin, it could possibly come back as decline. So be forewarned. Transamerica is not as diabetic friendly when there are other health issues going on, especially with the heart. So just be forewarned. And unfortunately, insurance toolkits, they sometimes will have that fall through the cracks. Now I will still do Transamerica, but I always give a caveat to my client that says, if for some reason it comes back as I'm just laughing now because I see Mark, and I think that's Mark De La Rosa, who said wasabi. So wasabi back, Mark. So if someone is on insulin, they're a smoker, they're taking spirulactone and LASIX, then that could come back as declined. Or if they've had a hospital stay with diabetes and insulin use in the past 2 years, and the spirulactone and the LASIX, that can come back as decline. But again, I always still try to do Transamerica. They have surprised me every now and then where I'm like, oh my goodness, it came back as approved. But I always let my client know they are a little, they can be a little tricky when it comes to someone who's a diabetic with a heart issue. But no worries, we'll try them. And if it comes back as decline, just know we have other options available, okay? Letting them know about an issue beforehand versus you trying to come back later on after a decline can make a big difference on keeping that person on the phone. The old football saying, the best defense is an offense. So think of it in sales terms as well. You want to be upfront with your client by saying, okay, it could come back as decline, but just know we have other options available. And usually they will stay on the phone. And I also like saying, so we'll get through it together. No worries. And that puts a lot of peace in your client's mind of knowing that you'll be able to help them and they start to trust you, and now they're willing to stay on the phone. So has anybody ever had any issues with congestive heart failure with the prescriptions? So I see, Mark, you said let's see, with heart circulation and diabetes, what could go wrong? Yes, exactly. Anytime those combo types of situations pop up, there's no telling. Sometimes with Transamerica, they can be a little easier to work with, and then sometimes not. But if it pops up here in insurance toolkits up at the top as the best option, always go with them first. And if you get the decline, then now you transition to Gerber or combined or any one of the other graded or guarantee issue options. Have a good one, John. All right, so next one we're going to do is the breast cancer survivor. So let me switch my screen here. All right, so with this one, we have a 78-year-old, oh, I said man for breast cancer. Let me change that. This was actually one of my clients. And it made my day that I was able to help her. I was so excited. I don't typically use this particular carrier that was able to give her immediate coverage, but I found a niche for this particular carrier, and we're go over this now. So I'm going to add this into chat. All right, so there you go. We have a 78-year-old female breast cancer survivor with her last treatment, December 2022. She is currently taking, though, the hormone exemestane, which is typically what you have to take 5 years after you have your surgery to remove the cancer. And that's typically normal. When you have breast cancer, they will put you on a hormone pill for up to 5 years. So you'll see that there. Now, here's how we'll work this one in insurance toolkits. All right. So I'm going to clear this out. And then we're going to default to that 10,000. We want to keep this at level. She's a female. Again, she's in Virginia. And let's see, she's 78. So I think that's, what, 48? No, 47.
Like check.
Hey, Mark, I hear you. Were you trying to ask a question?
No, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. All right. And then she is 5 feet 5 inches. And then she weighs 180 pounds. She's a non-smoker. She has a bank account. She's on escitalopram for depression. So I plugged that in. And she says it's for depression. She's currently taking it. And she's compliant. And she does not have major depressive disorder. Then we have levothyroxine for thyroid, so we put that in. And then she's currently taking it. Then we have Crestor for cholesterol. Then we go to the next one. Then we have Benicar for high blood pressure. If for some reason, when you plug this in and let's say a client doesn't know what they're taking it for, if they do not tell you about any heart issue, then you want to default to the most common reason that it could be for, because that's how the insurance company is going to look at it. So in this case, I'm going to select high blood pressure because that's a commonly used prescription for blood pressure. And she's compliant. And then we have the hormone prescription. So I put this in, and it says past cancer. And if you notice here, I do not see breast cancer. So I'm going to select other and keep it on currently taking. She has never had breast cancer more than once. It has not spread. That's metastatic cancer, so has not spread to other sites. And no recurring cancer. And she has not gone through chemo in the last 12 months because her last treatment was back in 2022. So I'll put no there. And she told me that it did not progress past stage 1. So I'll put, because when you have cancer, there are 3 stages. Typically 1 and 2 is for surgery to remove cancer. And then 3, it's usually with some type of chemo. And then 4 is chemo and radiation or, and then immunotherapy. And then with stage 4, sometimes that means it has spread to other parts of the body. All right, so let's get our quote. And as you see here, Corebridge comes up as our only option for immediate coverage. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I heard about this, but I don't really like working with Corebridge, but this is her only one. And I was so excited that I could possibly get her this. I went and took the risk. Because typically when I try to apply with Corebridge, it always comes back as declined or with that guaranteed issue waiting period. So I just said no. But I did decide to do this because when we were talking, she was telling me how she was trying to get this coverage. And everybody's telling her she has the 2-year waiting period. So this is what she got. So now I was like, well, we got Corebridge Financial. Let's try them. They have the best rates and they will give you the immediate whole life coverage. And we did the application and lo and behold, the application was approved. It did ask about, did it go past stage 1? And there was no, it didn't go past stage 1. She just had the surgery. Then she had to take the hormone pills for 5 years. So she'll be finished in 2027, I think it is, that she said she will be finished. And we got her approved for the immediate coverage. So it's always a good idea to use insurance toolkits. And what I told her too is, they can be a little finicky, but we'll get through it together. If it comes back as a decline, then we have other options. And it came back as approved, and I was so excited. And she was like, I'm so glad I was able to get this, and I'm so happy that you're happy with me. So it all worked out. So I'm a firm believer. You still go into insurance toolkits, plug in the prescriptions, plug in the diagnosis that people have, and you'll be surprised. Something can come up that maybe at first you're thinking is going to be guaranteed issue, and then it may come up with an option that gives you immediate coverage. So what I told her when she got this immediate coverage, that by any means necessary, you want to keep this coverage because this is the only company that's going to give you that day 1 immediate coverage with those rates that you got. Anything else would be guaranteed issue, and you're going to be paying anywhere from 25 to 50% more. And when I told her that, she was like, oh, no, you don't have to worry about me. We will keep this coverage. So she's had it for a couple of months. So I'm trusting that, I feel good that she's going to keep that one on the books. even though Corebridge Financial does not have Social Security billing. So do you guys have any other questions or concerns or any cases that you had before, or maybe some prescriptions that you wanted to go over now? Because that's pretty much it for case examples. So anybody have any?
Lisa?
Yes.
So, from what you've been seeing, we do get Cash App stuff, Chime stuff, and I know a lot of carriers are starting to not accept it as payment. What have you been seeing there as far as which carriers are taking it as banking, as routing an account number, and which ones aren't?
So for me, and I'm shocked because before, if it was a debit card or a credit card with Cash App routing numbers, insurance companies wouldn't take it. I don't know if Cash App and Chime has changed their routing number and bank name, but pretty much I haven't had any one of the carriers prevent me from writing an application with those routing numbers. I was able to do it with American Amicable. Royal Neighbors of America used to say, nope, we're not going to take it, and kick it back. But they've been taking them up until, I think, 2 weeks ago. I had an application done with them using a Cash App card, and it went through. But I have a feeling today that may be the case, but we don't know what tomorrow brings. And I think
Exactly. I think I had an agent that had submitted an app with SBLI.
yeah, they're one.
The Chime account, and it wouldn't go through the verification. I'm like, it's probably the Chime account.
Yep. Let me just forewarn you, with SBLI, they use GIAC, GIACT. And GIAC is their third-party vendor that verifies the routing numbers and account numbers. So now GIAC is probably flagging those routing numbers because they have a higher chance of those applications declining, or not decline, but lapsing due to non-payment. SBLI, they are probably more of a stickler when it comes to the payments on the back end, where if you have routing numbers and account numbers that you constantly are in an NSF, even though you're paying it, they're going to tell you can, I think it's after the second time of a NSF, they're going to tell you can no longer use your routing number and account number. You can only use a credit card number. That has to stay on the books for 6 months without a return. And then you can go back to routing numbers and account numbers. So they are watching that more closely than probably the other carriers.
Thank you, Lisa.
Oh, no problem. So let's see. We have Corebridge isn't one of our core contracts, correct? We still have them. They are not the core carriers, but as you know, core carriers are good for most of what we do, but there are a lot of carriers that have niches. And a lot of people are using Corebridge / American General, AIG, for little things like this. So if you have a contract with AIG, they are not one to say, okay, you haven't written business in a while, so we're going to terminate you without cause, I think is what it's called. They'll actually keep your license going even though you don't write business. So I've had AIG for years, and I don't like using them because I don't like the customer service on the back end, so I rarely use them. But in this case, being that I'm still appointed with them, I'm going to use them. And if you have niches like this, or you run into this, it's nice to have it as a backup. So I hope that answers your question, Ryan.
I can give a little insight into Corebridge specifically, Lisa. We A lot of times we'll remove carriers from our core group for specific reasons. Corebridge is not an easy carrier to work with for on the client side. It's not an easy carrier to work with on the processing side or the administrative side. And so they're specifically a carrier that we've removed from our core group for specific reasons.
Yeah,
so
that
while
is
they
so
do
true.
come up for a lot of niches, there's a reason we recommend certain carriers as core carriers over others. So have that discussion with your brokerage manager. If there's a carrier that's showing up, they can give you a little bit of insight into why we do or don't work with them as one of our core groups, or if it's just a niche carrier that, isn't useful for every single case. But if you're producing consistently, it may be a carrier that is worth adding to your mix. So have those conversations with your brokerage manager. They're the perfect ones to give you some more guidance on which carriers you may need to add to, your repertoire if you're producing consistently.
And that's the reason why I don't write business with Corebridge, because I just don't like their back end customer service. So like when a debit card expires, you have to go to hell and back to get that thing updated. Now they've changed it, but when I had to deal with that one time with my client who was in the hospital trying to get her payment, and they gave her such a hard time, I said I was done. But in this case, because I just so happen to still have them, I wrote the policy. Now, am I going to write more with them? Absolutely not. But it's nice to know that I was able to help this lady get immediate coverage when they are the only ones. Now, I'm not going to go with people who have COPD, people who have other issues going on. Even if that comes up as the best rates, I'm always going to default to the core carriers. For me, American Amicable is my core carrier. They're the easiest to work with on the front end, the back end. While you're doing the application process, I love American Amicable. So that is my core carrier that I use first. Then after that, I use Royal Neighbors, Transamerica, SBLI, and they have their niches. And so that's how I go. And I will let you know, it took me years to realize this. You want to pick a carrier that you like to work with the most and try to write that business the most with that carrier. Because when something doesn't, policy lapses due to non-payment, now you don't have to scramble to pay that back. Because you're always filling the funnel with business, you're not going to have to really write a check to pay that commission back, because you're constantly fueling that funnel with business. Versus now, God forbid, if my client with breast cancer lapses this Corebridge policy and I only have this one written in the past 2 years, I'm going to have to pay that commission back. So that's the reason why I reiterated with her to keep this coverage, because that is going to be the only carrier that she can use. We do not want to put most of our business with Corebridge because, again, they are kind of funny on the back end on getting things done. Let's see. I'm going through the comments. All right. Application, put gender at birth, assigned. I have to laugh because I'm very I don't want to say I'm conservative, but when it comes to this whole reassignment of genders, I'm very old school. You are a man or a woman. And so I haven't had that yet where someone tells me they are a male or female. And for me, that is because on the form that a person fills out when they see my Facebook or Instagram ad, it has what your gender is. And whatever gender they put down there, that's the gender I'm going to put on the form or the application. If someone sounds a little funny, because every now and then, like if you were on the call last Tuesday with script training, her name was Shirley, but she kind of sound like she was a man. And then after a while, they will give you little clues while you're talking. if they are a man or a woman. So eventually you can figure that out. But most insurance carriers, they're going to go by what gender you were born with, not what you relate closest to. And I hope that answers your question. And I hope that was the question you were trying to ask.
Yeah, and if I could add a little bit to that, Lisa, too.
Yeah, yes.
One of the reasons, Sydney, just so you understand where the insurance carriers are coming from, is that carrier rates, right, are based on statistics. They're based on the law of large numbers. So, as an example, statistically, men pass away sooner than women do. So when you look at carrier rates and things like that, rates for males are always higher, 100% of the time. So when we're talking about things like insurance, we have to appropriately rate their premiums and risk as their assigned gender, because as their gender at birth, because those things don't really change genetically. They are still the same. And that's why it would need to be that way. Hope that helps.
Exactly. They have a department in every insurance company called actuaries. And what they do is figure out the rates by how soon a group of people are going to die. So that is the reason why the risk is higher for smokers and the risk is higher for men, and their rates are typically more than women, because women, when something goes wrong, they are quick to go to the doctor and get it fixed. Whereas men, they're like, oh, they want to play that I'm strong, I can handle it, and they wait longer, and then by that time, it's sometimes too late to take preventative measures. And then now that person is dying sooner. And that's the reason why the rates can be higher. The good news is,
Did you say men are stubborn? Is that what you just?
Yeah.
Is that what
you didn't
just
hear
tried
it
to
from
say?
me? I'm not one to say it, but you didn't hear it from me. But yes. So the good news is they have not really transitioned from that point of view. They have been very consistent over the years, and I think that's a good idea to do. And the good news is that people are living longer, so that's the reason why you haven't seen really the rates raising like it is with milk, for example, or eggs or chicken. The rates have been kind of consistent over the years. So Sydney, you asked, does Direct Express cards pay advance? And they do not pay advance, but Kim or Elise, do you know if Transamerica still does advance for the Direct Express cards? I can't remember.
They don't, as far as I know. I don't think there's anyone that advances on debit card, credit card, or Direct Express business.
Correct. So the old company, Prosperity, they were the only company that gave the advance on Direct Express debit cards, not credit cards, not debit cards, Direct Express cards. And the way you know it's a Direct Express card is because it always starts with a 533248 number. So that's letting you know that's a Social Security Direct Express card. So any type of credit card has a higher risk of those cards payments coming back as return due to non-payment. So what insurance companies do is now, instead of creating a possible risk of getting that money back from you as the agent, because you have to pay that commission back, and keeping that client on the books, now they have those payments, those commissions for Direct Express cards, credit cards, debit cards being paid as earned. And you want to do that too for you, so that way you don't have to owe any payments or commissions. Let's see, if that ever changes, we'll let you know. Okay, I think that's a younger generation thing. Any advice on Abilify for bipolar? Okay, so let's take a look. All right, so we'll take all of this out. And then we have Abilify. Oh, another thing I like too is if you spell it incorrectly, Insurance Toolkits will pull it up for you still. All right, so for bipolar disorder, any inpatient treatment in the last 2 years, we're going to put no. And then typically SBLI is a good one. American Amicable will do it. But SBLI will do standard, as you see. But in this case, what I'm going to do is do American Amicable over Aetna, Aflac, over SBLI, Mutual of Omaha, because number one, they have the best rates with Social Security billing, and that's my core carrier. And they're easy to work with in the front end and the back end. So if something comes up as far as other prescriptions, I can put notes in the application and let them know what it's for. And now an underwriter can review it and possibly approve it for immediate, even though other prescriptions came up. Versus, like Aflac or SBLI, where they just give you the decision over or through the application process. So I would do American Amicable in that case. So any other questions about prescriptions? Oh, yeah, David said, yeah, men like to go skydiving, race rockets. Turns out actuaries know this. So true. And I used to work with United Home Life, and they actually asked that question. Do you plan on doing any skydiving, be a pilot and pilot ride or pilot for commercial or recreational use? And people used to always laugh with that question, but it's the risk that is involved with that. Let's see, Elise, carriers also underwrite based on medical records, so they'll always refer to the assignment at birth. Yes, that is true. Okay. All right, term policies, ask those as well. Yes, term policies are way more strict with their guidelines. And a lot of times they're not only looking at your medical history and pharmacy records, but they're also asking questions about your siblings and your parents. And that could cause a decline with term life insurance. Ozempic and insulin as medication are automatic guarantee use issue. So hold on that one. So Seth, with Ozempic, and I'm going to add this in here, Ozempic is not insulin. Let me just let you know there. So if someone is taking Ozempic and they are taking gabapentin, typically that would be for diabetic neuropathy. So let's put that in. So I'm going to select gabapentin for diabetic neuropathy. They're currently taking it. Uncontrolled diabetes in the last 2 years, I'm going to say no. A1C reading is less than 8%. And then I do a search. And then the best one is going to be Royal Neighbors of America. Again, I'm not going to do Corebridge. I'm going to automatically go to Royal Neighbors of America because number one, they're a core insurance carrier of ours because they have the Social Security billing. They're easy to work with in the front end and the back end. Just keep in mind, your commissions may be cut due to the person's age. So in this case, she is over the age of 76, so they typically will cut the commission for this particular client for you. Now, if we had her the date of birth as 1960, then now you notice that $ went away, and this would still be your best option. Okay, so any of these weight loss prescriptions, Mounjaro, Ozempic, what's another one that I can't even think of them. That's not considered insulin. They are, yes, given through a shot, but it's not insulin that they're injecting. So you wouldn't put that as insulin, okay? So just want to make sure you guys understand that. So
Lisa, while we're on that topic, I'm just curious to see, because you're out riding in the field more than I am. What have you seen in terms of carriers adapting to these medications being used for weight loss? Would you recommend agents put those towards a carrier like American Amicable, where you can explain that it's not for diabetes? Or, is that something the carriers are starting to adapt to?
That's a great question. I haven't had any.
Trick question, because they're morbidly obese to begin with.
Yeah. And typically, most of my clients that are on, and thank you, Sydney, for Wegovy, that's another one. Most of my clients that are taking GLP-1s are diabetic. I haven't had a case where someone is not a diabetic taking these prescriptions. If they are taking these prescriptions and they're taking like gabapentin, I'm automatically going to put in the system that they are taking it for diabetes and diabetic neuropathy, because the insurance company is going to see it as that. Now, I haven't tested this case that way. If I did, I would do American Amicable to see what would come back as the final result. But because typically I can get the immediate coverage with really good rates with Royal Neighbors of America, I'm going to default to them first. And I'm even going to default to them first if they qualify for the standard over Transamerica, because Transamerica can be a little finicky when it comes to these diabetic medicines and taking gabapentin. So I'm just going to do Royal Neighbors of America first, and if for some reason it comes back as declined, then I'll try doing American Amicable. But the combos, like you said, Elise, that's the thing that can cause issues.
Right. Yeah. So agents, you're going to start seeing these, and just to speak to Mark's comment in a little bit, a lot of people who are taking these types of medications like Ozempic, if they're doing it for weight loss, and this probably isn't as common with the senior market that you all work with, but I just want to point this out because we do get some younger leads and clients in here. A lot of people who are taking it are not in that morbidly obese category or anywhere near it. The use for that is getting way more common even among people who don't fall into that category. So just because you hear that, it doesn't automatically mean that they're obese and would be disqualified due to their weight or anything like that. So this is something that is, a new use of this medication that's very recent within the past couple of years. So these are the things that you guys might start seeing changes on with the way that carriers underwriting, and this is where this agent community comes into play. If you're starting to get cases like that, share with your other agents the carrier that you were working with, what their decision was, whether they automatically declined it because they just assume that means, diabetes. A lot of these carriers do just have strict underwriting requirements that are just based on, hey, you're taking this medication and we don't accept that medication regardless of what it's for.
Exactly. Yep. Royal Neighbors of America, they are more black and white when it comes to certain prescriptions than probably the other carriers. So I think what Elise was saying is so correct. Like for now, you want to err on the caution of, or the side of this being for diabetes, because the insurance company is going to look at it as a person who is diabetic. So even if they tell you it's not for diabetes, in the system, you cannot select anything other than diabetes for Ozempic, Wegovy, all these GLP-1s. So you just err on the side of what's most common. So most common Ozempic usage for diabetes with no complications. So I hope that helps. So it is 2:00. So before we end the call, let me just go over this real quick, these couple of last slides. All right. So automatic guaranteed issue cases. Here are the ones where you don't have to waste minutes taking down prescriptions. When someone tells you they are on a memory pill like Namenda, Donepezil, Aricept, that is for dementia or Alzheimer's. Even if they say they don't, which sometimes they haven't been diagnosed with dementia, a primary care doctor will get this when you go in for your doctor's appointment. You say, you know what, doc, I'm not remembering things like I used to. They'll automatically will give, well, not automatically. Some doctors will just prescribe this prescription to help with memory. And unfortunately, when it's in their medical file, the insurance company is going to automatically assume this is for dementia or Alzheimer's. So don't even waste your time trying to put it with other carriers. Just issue it as guaranteed issue and let your client know why it's coming back as the guaranteed issue. 24-hour oxygen use, that will be automatic, guaranteed issue. Dialysis, chemo prescriptions, hormone therapy for cancer, and that excludes for breast cancer. So there are some hormone therapies that are tamoxifen, Lupron, that's hormone, but it's not for breast cancer. Different HIV and AIDS prescriptions like Dovato, Truvada. Anybody residing in a nursing home or receiving hospice care, do not waste your time taking 30 prescriptions down. So just go automatically to guaranteed issue. I'd even tell my clients, here's the reason why. When they check your medical file, they see Namenda in your file, they're automatically going to assume that it's for dementia and your application will be declined. The good news is we can get you whole life coverage, and here is how it works. And then you break down how guaranteed issue works. Home health care, Sydney, is a totally different beast. And so I also help people with Medicare Advantage plans. And Medicare Advantage will give you home health care, but it's not home health care that a doctor says you need because of risk of falling. So when a client tells you that they're using home health care, if it has not been prescribed by the doctor, then that is not home health care that would cause an application to come back as graded, ROP, or decline. And I hope that helps. And that's an excellent question. So home health care, now with Medicare Advantage plans, they give it as an incentive or a benefit. And you don't need a prescription for it. Now, before all of this came about a couple of years ago, it was prescribed by the doctor. The doctor had to sign off in order for the insurance companies to pay for that service. And if a doctor signs off, he has to justify why you need a home health care to come into the house. So if it's just one of the home health cares where they're just coming in and doing some light cleaning because you signed up for it through your Medicare Advantage plan, and the doctor has not written a prescription for you, then now that's two different types of home health care. That one is different, and you can actually get immediate coverage with that one. All right, so here's some tips and takeaways. Number one, don't waste minutes getting prescriptions in guaranteed issue cases. Ask when, not just what. Timing matters as much as the condition. Like what I was telling you, asking the pre-COVID lockdown versus post-COVID lockdown. Don't skip or rush to the health questions. Ask basic health questions before pricing, as well as the health questions on the application. So some people will just ask the basic health questions and then go to the application and click all the no's. You still are required to ask those health questions that are on the application in its entirety when you're doing the application. So what I tell my clients is, I'm working to get you a preliminary offer, and they have approved. Now we have to do the application for a final decision. And then I break down how they get that final decision. Then I let them know I have to ask these questions in its entirety, so bear with me while I ask it, and then I can plug in your answers for that final decision. And most of the time, they're fine with that. Each carrier has niches, like we talked about. Always mention before doing the application that if there's a decline or a higher rate, you have other options. That helps tremendously from keeping that client from hanging up because they got that initial decline. Try to write most of your business with your core carrier first, because again, if something comes back where a policy lapses, now you don't have to write a check to pay back commission. Now you're funneling the system with business, so now it kind of offset the commission that you owe. Ask, are there prescriptions that they used to take and that they're no longer taking, or if there are any prescriptions that may be in the refrigerator or any puffers, inhalers that we might have missed. You'll be amazed. Sometimes people have prescriptions that are in the refrigerator, like insulin, and they'll forget about that. And insulin makes a big difference with coming back as immediate coverage with Royal Neighbors versus them taking pills. So, for example, if someone is on insulin and gabapentin, that application will be declined with Royal Neighbors. I won't say decline. It'll come back as graded versus immediate coverage, like maybe with Transamerica. So that's pretty much it.